Hey everybody, and welcome to live stream number 57. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 2017, and it's like 7 minutes past 2. I'm late to my own live stream. Hang on a second. Just gotta get a cup of coffee going here. I kind of thought it was at 3 o'clock and not at 2. So apologize for that. Today's topic is shortcuts. What is kind of funny now where should have taken the shortcut now where I'm late. So I apologize for that for anybody who was sitting out there waiting. Let's talk about shortcuts inside of Fusion 360. So in the description I put shortcuts are not just for the pros, and I honestly believe that. Now we're gonna have people watching this video either live, we're going to see we already got a bunch of people in here, or watching the recording at different levels. And that's kind of like how I look at shortcuts. If you're brand new to Fusion 360 or any kind of software, you really don't want to start learning shortcuts. You just want to kind of get something up at the screen, right? But of course, as you're getting further and further inside of the program, you kind of maybe start picking up on some of these productivity kind of tips. So today we're going to talk about the shortcuts inside of Fusion 360. And I'm going to do them kind of in groups. So I'm going to do them, if you're brand new to Fusion 360, I'm going to show you kind of the shortcuts that I think you need to know about, even when you're starting out. And then after that, we're going to go into stage 2, which is kind of more for you guys who've used it for a while. The ones that you definitely should know. And then there's the ones, I know there's some people in here who's way over the top. There's maybe a couple of those in stage 3 that you don't know about. So, I think there's something in there that maybe would surprise at least a couple of you guys. So let's jump in and talk about shortcut. I should also say, there's plenty of videos of me modeling things on YouTube. And I'm kind of wishy-washy. Sometimes I'm using shortcuts, sometimes I don't. I thought about at some point to do, take a shot if you don't take use a shortcut, but then I'll probably just end up, drinking too much or something like that. So I'm definitely also in that bad habit of not using all of these. Let's jump into Fusion. So, gonna start here with a blank screen, and like I said, I'm gonna kind of work my way through some of all of these different ones. Now, there is some in here that are pretty cool, I think. But if you're just starting out, you never used any of these shortcuts. Let's start at the bottom. So the first one is L for line. And I know that the line command is right up here, but if you start up a sketch here, and to start on whatever plane, we hit L for line, you get right into the line command. You can start kind of sketching your line. Now, one thing that I want to show you, that when you click again, you get that little check box here that can take you kind of out of that line. If I just keep on sketching, I'll get another line, but if you hit that little green coin there, it will take you out. But actually, now where we are talking about L for line, you can also just double click. So if you just double click with your mouse, you're out of the command too. Now another one you probably need to know about, and anybody who ever used AutoCAD, escape will take you kind of out of a command. So if you hit escape, then you're back, you have your white cursor here, kind of your picking cursor. Of course, also important to know that if you select a line and you hit delete, then you are removing it. And that actually also works with other things. Like if you have a fillet on a part, for example, and you hit delete, you will actually delete the fillet, but the Fusion is smart enough to kind of try to solve itself. So that was 3. L for line, you got to know about the escape if you haven't already figured out about it. The delete key to delete item, and then of course also Control Z, what is pretty universal. So Control on your keyboard and Z, that is undo. That is kind of nice to know about. Of course, there is the other default one going the other way to redo, what is Control Y. That will go a redo. And these are actually also living right up here if you didn't know about it. So if you hit the little drop down here, you will actually see history of the different commands that have been used. So just be aware of that. These are up here where you can go back and forth. All right, continue ahead. C for circle. That is definitely one you should know about. You can sketch some circle with that one. So C for circle. I will definitely say that that is a must. Now where I'm at it here, I was actually planning on actually drawing something. Now I got all started all wrong. I know I'm going to be making a couple of things that I hadn't planned on doing, but that's all good. So let's just add a couple of things to this one. What else could we do to this part? Maybe add some tangency between these. Okay, and let's just go ahead and talk about the next one here. What is D for dimension? So this is a way that we can actually apply some dimensions to our part here. So that is D for dimension. You should definitely know about that one. The next one you should know about is Q. What is press and pull? And I hope most of you guys are all good with most of these that I have shown so far. So press pull Q will get you into that one. Now another one you should definitely know about when we're talking about sketching is construction geometry. So you can actually create a line, and if you select the line, so hit escape to get out of the line. If you select the line and you hit X, it will become a construction line. That actually also works right over here. It's the same icon is sitting right over here for like the X command is. And of course, a lot of these commands are everywhere. Now the last one in I kind of like will call that the beginner kind of series is, well, I put it in as F for fillet. So hit F and you can place a fillet on a part. But it's really not necessary to know about the F because the Q command will do the same thing, right? So the same thing we use to press pull, the Q will actually do multiple things. And there was a live stream about that. So so you can definitely, check that out. So this is kind of like what I would call if you are fairly new to Fusion, these are the shortcuts that you should feel pretty comfortable with. So L for line, it should be escape key to get the heck out of there. The delete key to delete things. Control Z, undo, that's always good, but also remember it's up at the top there. We got C for circle, D for dimensions, and Q for press pull, and then those instructions lined with the X. That's kind of like the beginning stages of what I think you should feel comfortable with, and you should play around with it. Now, down in the description area of the video, you will find a link out to, I believe it's to the Knowledge Network, but it's actually pretty cool, the Artist Knowledge Network. There you will find all the different shortcuts that are inside of Fusion. I am not going to share them all with you today, but this is definitely the portion that you should play around with these, because when you get comfortable with these, of course, just like anything else, it takes a few steps to get used to it. But when you get comfortable with it, it can really speed up your process. Let's jump into stage 2 in here. So if you are kind of like through, I would say, the beginner stages, and you can start to kind of like working in here, then if we go in and we, for example, create a new sketch, we have P for project. So we can actually kind of, I call it steal, but it was probably a bad word. Project is probably more like borrowing edges from other either edges or components that you have inside of Fusion. So now this second sketch, if I end the second sketch, let me hide the body, we now have those over. So that's P for project. That is definitely, again, most of these are in here. So if you go to sketch, you go down to project, there is the project. And by the way, you will also see that every of these commands that has a shortcut have them right next to them. So if you are hunting through menus, you will actually see a lot of the different ones show up. P for project. You should definitely also be aware of O for offset. So that would actually let you offset out contours. So that is kind of handy. Now where we added S is your toolbox. But what is important to know about the S key is that it's kind of like giving you this shortcut box up here, is that you can customize this and you can search for things in here. So right now we're inside of a sketch. You can see that over here we have the sketch palette. But when I hit the S key, and by the way, it appears wherever your cursor is. So that's kind of nice. You can customize things in here and you can search for things in here. So for example, if I start searching for, I don't know, F, then you will see anything that kind of have an F in it will show up. So you can kind of like narrow it down. You can search for commands in here. And then again, you can add them to the shortcut bar. So if we went into the sketch command and we went into project, you will see that when I'm hovering over it, I get this little arrow that would let it add. And when it says, now I can't remember, will that add it to the toolbar or will that add it to the, oh, that adds it to the toolbar. What we got to do is we got to be, now it's up there. Just drag it and it goes away again. Inside of the command, if we go to project here, now if we click on it in here, then it will be added to the sketch toolbar. So you can add things in here, and of course you can also pull things off it again. So that just showed you another trick. If you want to add any of these to the big toolbar, when you are in the drop down here, you just click on the arrow and it will be added to it. Don't want it, you can drag it off again. Now what I also will say about the S key for the tool cut here, you will see that it's in the sketch mode. If I go in and and I'm now in another mode, you will see that it changes to the model environment. So it's sensitive to what environment you are in. So that is kind of nice. So in here, if I go in and I search something like a chamfer, I can add that to the toolbar up here. So it's all about speed. Another one you should know about is I for measure. Now that icon is also sitting up here. But if you are like me, you are measuring things from time to time, and the I command is definitely nice to have in here. By the way, we talked a lot about the measuring tool in the past, about how you have like snapping points you can turn on. So that is in a different live stream. Another one that is kind of nice to know about is M for move. So that will actually just turn up the move command. Now, if you ever are watching some of my live streams, you will actually see that I normally do it, and I've done it in videos, by selecting right click and hit move. But actually, that's one too many clicks. I could just hit the M key and it will bring that up. All right. J for joint. So you have the joint up here. If you're working in an assembly where you're gonna combine two things together, you can go and hit the J command, and that will take you into the joint. Now I get a warning here because it tells me that hey, you only have one body. There is nothing to join. But J, you should definitely know that is in there as a shortcut. Another one that actually I think most people use on a regular basis is appearances. I think most people, when you model something up and it's boring gray, at some point you gotta go in here and see if you can't turn your part into something maybe a little bit more valuable or something like that. So that's the A key. Again, if you ever watch some of my videos, you will normally see that I will right click and hit appearances. Again, one click too many for some people. Another thing that works in here that can be super helpful to know about is you can actually copy paste in here. Now, I should go back to the model environment. If you copy paste in here, so if I select this part here, I do a Control C, I select the body, Control C, Control V, it would actually come up with the move copy command in here. So it's smart enough to know if you're inside of a component, do a Control C, Control V, that it will copy that. But what I wanted to show that I think is probably the coolest thing is that you can actually also select a scat, and you can do a Control C, and then you can, on the new fancy plus sign up here, you can go in on a new part, open a new sketch, and you can actually Control V that whole sketch into another design. I know that there's definitely some people that is going to be excited that you can do that. So you're working on kind of like one layout, and you can go in and you can work with the other. So Control C and Control V are definitely I think some you need to know about, especially when it comes to the sketch there. So that's kind of like the next stage of when you're working inside of Fusion, these other commands. So P for project, O for offset. When you're working with your sketches, you can offset it all out. The S key, the toolbox, is definitely one that I used to use it a lot more than I'm doing now. Like I say, I don't think that I'm definitely not perfect on this. I'm with you on this, with some of you on this. I for measure, M for move, and J for joint, A for appearances, and then that Control C, Control V. Again, down in the description area, you will find the list for all of these. All right, let's take a look at what I would call like some of these interesting ones that maybe some of you guys have not heard about, and you should know are inside of the software. So one of them in here, I just saw that my good friend Bryce was in here, so why don't we start out with Bryce throwing out his one of his, and that is Control Alt and P will actually open your data panel. Control Alt P will open the data panel up. That is definitely one of these that I think are just how many people knew about that one besides Bryce? So that is kind of cool. Another one that I actually like also to highlight is if you go up to your number key. If you do number 2, you will actually see that your selection tool changed shape. Now, you probably now can figure out number 1 is the default, what is window selection. That's number 1. Number 2 is what is called freeform selection. And by the way, I got to say this. When we talk about number 1, the standard window select that is normally highlighted, you need to know, you see how it's changing color depending on what way I drag the triangle. You need to know about this. So if you're starting from left to right, the box will select everything that is within that box, but it has to be fully within it. So if I do the box around here, I'm just going to hold it for a second. The only thing that is fully enclosed inside of the box right now is the 2 circles. They're the ones that are selected. If you do from right to left, see how it turned yellow? Now it's everything the box is touching. So you need to know about this. All right. So when it comes to selection, 1 is window, but it's kind of like the standard. 2 is the selection box, which can really be kind of like a neat way to kind of selecting different regions of your part. And then number 3 is the painting tool path, where you almost like a paintbrush that you are painting over. I actually kind of like that one, especially if you're working with big assemblies and you got to select things. So number 3 is the paintbrush mode. All right. The last one that is kind of neat. Let's open up the control panel. CtrlAltP. And let's just go into our live stream area here. And let me just extrude this one. Q for extrude. And extrude that one up a little bit. All right. So if I hit save right now, we haven't saved this model. We get prompted to save this this one here. Call it shortcuts. We can spell shortcuts. Save that one. It will now appear over in the data panel over here, right? Now, one of the things I want to talk about is in regards to saving your file. So yesterday we talked about kind of data management or best practices working around your models. And one of the things we talked about was these versions over here. Now, the trick is that whenever you are working in here, if I make a change to this model, make this hole small, hit OK, and I save it again, it will come up with a user description in here. So you should actually always fill this in. It will now create a version number 2 because I saved it, and versions are always created. Now, if I click on the version, you will see that we get the list here we saw yesterday. So this first one was item created. The second one, you will see that it leaves a little note, but that's actually very handy, smaller hole. Now, what you can do in here is you can actually also do Control S, and unless this thing is broken, or I'm not doing it right. Let's make another change here. Control S. It will come up, and it should actually just create a save version on it here, right? So now we get the next. It was because I hadn't made a change. So now we get the next one here. Okay. And we should get our next version. Now here's the trick. We should actually be able to, let's make everything bigger. If we do, so now we have the next version down here. If you do Control Shift and S, we saved a recovery, but we did not get a new version. So that is a way to save a model for recovery without actually creating another version. So if you're working through something where you don't necessarily want the version numbers in here, but you want them in regards to recovery for if something happens that you suddenly, Fusion shuts down or something like that, you can do Control Shift and S, and it will save the recovery file without creating a new version. So I hope that was kind of helpful. Let me just check here. We got 75 people in here, which is absolutely awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time out. Go down in the description area, check out the list, because there's a ton more in there. And even if you have used Fusion for a while, I think it's always good to kind of like, you're refreshing your mind a little bit, like, all right, let me try that S key again and see if I could get a hang of it. That was kind of what I planned on showing today. Again, I'm apologizing that I was a little bit late. I totally forgot that we moved this tool from 3 to 2. Tomorrow, we are going to talk CAM. So if you're not into CAM, if that have no interest for you, take tomorrow off. It's Friday anyways. If you are interested, we're going to talk a little bit about mixing up your 2 and 3 axis toolpath. If you're like me and you're kind of like a little old school, you kind of like have like this idea that 3 axis maybe is very complicated, and it's really not that complicated, especially not with Fusion 360. So that's tomorrow. It is at 2. I'll do my best to be on time then. So I'm going to do what I normally do. I am going to end the broadcast. If you like what you see, do me the favor, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, be honest, hit the thumbs down. And if you haven't already, really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to end the broadcast. I'm going to jump into the live chat and say hi to everybody. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join in. Until the next time, take care.